Welcome to the Spiritist Companion Podcast. My name is Yuri Castro, and this is our special segment, Parable Fridays, where every 2 Fridays we explore a parable of Jesus through the lens of Spiritism. And this is our last Parable Fridays episode, because next year we will start a new segment on Fridays. So I hope you have enjoyed the parables. And to end on a very positive note, we're going to be talking about the Prodigal Son. So we're going to go to Luke chapter 15, when Jesus said, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when the son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.'" This is such a beautiful and profound parable told by our Master Jesus. At first glance, this parable may seem to speak only of a kind father and a repentant son. But in the light of Spiritism, as codified by Allan Kardec, it reveals itself as a true portrait of the journey of the immortal spirit. And here are a few essential points. First, the son who leaves, which is the use of free will, because we see the younger son representing the young, perhaps still immature spirit who wishes to experience life without limits. He asks for his inheritance before the proper time, which is a symbol of the premature, for instance, use of free will. In Spiritism, we learn that God deeply respects our freedom. We know that man has free will in his actions. God, much like the father of the parable, does not prevent the son from leaving. He allows the experience, even knowing the suffering that will follow from that choice of the son. How many times, my dear friends, have we also asked for our inheritance, perhaps wanting to live without considering divine laws? Then we also have the fall and the suffering, which is the educational role of pain. The son wastes everything and falls into hunger eventually. Here we clearly see the law of cause and effect, because suffering does not arise as a punishment, but as the natural consequence of the son's misguided choices. We learn in the Gospel according to Spiritism by Allan Kardec how afflictions are these instruments of learning and moral readjustment. Pain causes the son to come to himself, which is something that says in the parable, without suffering there is often no reflection. And the coming to himself, or when the parable says when he came to himself, it's so interesting, and it's a point that I think it's often overlooked in this very profound parable, because it's one of the most important moments of the parable. Here we witness the awakening of conscience when the spirit realizes it has strayed from the path of good. This, my dear friends, marks the beginning of repentance, the first stage of spiritual progress. You can think of repentance first, then atonement, then reparation. The young son, begins his process the moment he decides to return. And the return, obviously, is the divine mercy. The father of the parable represents God. And let's notice this carefully. The father of the parable demands no explanations, humiliates no one, and imposes no punishment. Instead, no, he sees his son from a distance and he runs to meet his son, giving him the ring, giving him the sandals, everything. God's mercy is infinite, my dear friends. The son's return symbolizes the spirit's return to the path of good after painful, yet educational experiences. And let's not forget the other character of the parable, the older son's spiritual pride, because we cannot forget that he became indignant at the welcome given to his brother. The older son represents those who fulfill external duties, yet still carry pride, judgment, and a lack of compassion. This part of the parable warns us of this common danger, which is believing in oneself righteous while forgetting charity. It is not enough to be in the Father's house, one must have the heart with him. In the book Heaven and Hell, Allan Kardec is going to say that no spirit is eternally condemned. All without exception will return to the good in their own time. God never grows tired of waiting. His mercy is infinite, and error is this transient shadow, we can say. Light is the destiny. How often then, my dear friends, let's ask ourselves, do we drift away from goodness, from faith, from inner discipline? But this parable reminds us lovingly that it is always possible to begin again. It does not matter how much we have erred. What matters is the decision to return. And in our families, how many, quote-unquote, prodigal sons do we encounter? Could be children, could be siblings, could be parents, could be friends who strayed, who failed, or who fell. Jesus invites us to welcome them, not to condemn. We can even extend this to our Spiritist centers, because they should resemble the father of the parable, a place with open arms, a place without judgment, a place that welcomes those who return without demanding explanations, without demanding labels. So how can we apply this parable in our lives? Well, here are 5 things. First, let us examine our choices. So asking ourselves, am I using my spiritual inheritance wisely? Number 2, let us not fear beginning again, because every return is worthy, even if that return is delayed. Number 3, let's avoid judgment, because we never know the inner battles or the invisible battles that others are fighting. Number 4, let's practice forgiveness. Yes, we always come back to forgiveness at home, at work, and with ourselves as well. Number 5, trust in divine mercy, because God never closes doors. We are the ones who walk away from those doors. And if we really think about it, we'll see that at some point we're all the child who leaves. At other times, we are the child who returns. And one day, we are called to be like the Father, merciful. So my dear friends, the parable of the prodigal son teaches us that error does not define who we are. Repentance transforms us, and God's love is always waiting for us. So may we have the humility to return when we err, and the greatness of heart to welcome others when they return. Thank you so much for joining me in this last Parable Fridays. It's been an honor and a great joy to be able to share these teachings and these studies with you, my dear friends. And as usual, if this episode touched your heart, please share it with someone who may be in need of a new beginning. Much peace, my dear friends, much light. And until next time, with fraternal love, your Spiritist companion.